This program is simulcast on WRFP-LP 101.9 FM.
First of all, thank you to everybody. I know the turnaround time was short to get this on your calendar. It's an important topic, and I really appreciate people taking time out of their day to come today to talk and being willing to represent your organization or the group that you're with to be part of a bigger conversation. We are here because we really have said excessive alcohol use in our community is something that we want to pay more attention to, and we're taking a step back to get some input and some voices at the table that we are really excited about. But I'm going to first start welcoming Dale Peters up to share a little bit of background about starting the group. My name is Liska. I'm the health department director, but I really am here only to help facilitate, and we'll be talking as we do introductions later about that. So my job today is to really get everybody to participate and that we get done with the meeting with a satisfactory amount of content gotten through. So that's going to be my job, but Dale's going to start.
Thanks, Liska. So I guess I won't have to introduce Liska because she's already done that for herself. But I would also like to echo a thank you and appreciation for your time and your interest to come and talk about this important issue, the issue of behaviors that are related to excessive alcohol use. You know, behaviors related to excessive alcohol use are something that we've been aware of for a long time as a community, and they have very, very real impacts. They have impacts on individuals when they go into homes that they don't belong to, or they go and drive a car, or they walk in a river. It has impacts on families when those behaviors impact the relationships within the families. Behaviors related to excessive alcohol impact neighbors when there's stress and tensions related to the behaviors of noise and trash and other things. It can impact neighborhoods when you have divisions within neighborhoods and characterizations of people within the neighborhoods related to behaviors with excessive alcohol use. And of course, it has an impact on public services, from police to fire to the people that have to pick up the streets to processing the issues. So it has a lot of real impact. But one of the questions is whether or not the community feels that that's also has an impact, and is it a problem, and is it a problem we want to address? And if it is a problem we want to address, what is the ways we want to address it, and how do we want to address behaviors related to excessive alcohol use? So certainly legislative solutions are one way to do that, but there's also a lot of other ways that we can look at addressing behaviors related to excessive alcohol use. And that's why we're here today. We're here today with this task force for all of you to look at the problem, see if we agree that there is a problem, and if there is, what are some of the various solutions that are available to us as a community to address behaviors related to excessive alcohol use. So, like Liska, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your interest. You're here because you care about the issue. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been here on a 3 o'clock on what's turning out to be one of the better and more beautiful days of April already. But thank you for that. We appreciate your time and interest and the input that you're going to provide around this topic. And so, as Liska said, she's going to be your facilitator for this process, and I greatly appreciate her time and interest in also leading this. And so I'm going to turn it back to Liska, and we'll have the discussion and see where we want to go and what your recommendations are as a task force. So thank you for your time, thank you for your interest, and I look forward to your work.
Thanks, Dale. I'm going to clip this on me so I don't have to carry it around, so bear with me. We'll let Chad get seated and we'll open there. All right, so it is 5 after, and we're going to get through this and really get some good conversation. I have up here the charge of the group. So for those of you that weren't closely connected to the conversations that really pushed hard to make this a task force today, there was city council action that happened that really charged a group with this work: cooperative dialogue, research, and development of recommendations that promote ownership of the changes to improve the public good. And this was all around a public good order ordinance. I have the resolution if you'd like a copy of it. We have the background materials that were given to City Council as part of the conversation. Again, we didn't put those all out on the tables, but if anybody's interested in it as we go through or at the end, we can go get those materials to you. Some of you were very involved in those conversations early on and others weren't. So I want to make sure that you at least have that frame, that there was a City Council conversation that really pushed us to have a bigger picture look. This is just a copy of the City Council resolution that formed this group. So you guys are all here because City Council said we need a group together to talk about it. So that's framing the start of today. What I'd like us to do so that everybody has an idea about who's in the room is to go around one by one quickly and say who you are, and why you're here. Why is this important to you? So, because sometimes we have challenges with introductions and how long they go, I will model for you that I am Liska Giese and I'm the moderator, name and affiliation, and why I think this is important is I want to hear from the community. Okay? You guys ready? Yeah? Mike, we're starting with you.
I'm Mike Window. I'm a participant. I'm the Assistant Chancellor for Facilities and University Relations at UW-Eau Claire. I'm here because this is an important issue for the university and our community relations with the community.
Thank you.
I'm Janessa Stromberger. I'm from the City Attorney's Office, and I'm here because I deal with the after effects of a lot of alcohol-related problems and want to know how we can best address them.
I'm Dave Olson. I'm with the Tavern League, and I'm very interested in hearing what the problems really are.
I'm Alan Bertschang. I'm with the Eau Claire Fire Department, and being in the fire service, I've seen some of the impacts with this topic, but I see opportunities for very positive impacts as well. So.
My name is Austin O'Branson. I'm with the University Student Senate, and I want student voices to be heard and represented properly in this process.
My name is Helene Smyer. I'm from the historic Randall Park neighborhood, and I'm here because it is a problem. It impacts our neighborhood, and we're looking forward to economic redevelopment in the neighborhood. And so I'd like to hear what others have to say, how we can solve problems.
I'm Margot Keys, Vice President of Student Services at Chippewa Valley Technical College, and I'm here to listen and to learn more about the issues and see how we can work together.
Tom Klatt. I'm here with representing Right Way Shuttle. I'm here to just gather more information.
My name is Jed Hart. My wife and I own and operate some businesses on Water Street, and we're looking forward to seeing how we can make the entire area fun, safe, and clean for everybody.
I'm Kevin Rosenberg. I'm with the 3rd Ward Neighborhood Association, and I'm here to represent our neighborhood.
I'm Willie Henning on behalf of Chippewa Valley Technical College and the public safety manager there. And I'd just like to be a little bit better educated on all different aspects of this topic.
I'm Chad Hoyard. I'm with the Eau Claire Police Department, and as our slogan says, in partnership with our community, I want to create that partnership here.
Hey everybody, I'm Brandon Yates. I'm the current Student Senate Chief of Staff at UW-Eau Claire, and I'm here to ensure that student voices are heard in this conversation.
I'm Beth Hart. I am Jed's other half, and I'm here to represent Water Street.
Hi there guys, I'm Zach Arvold. I am the president of SGA at CVTC. I'm also a criminal justice student there as well, and I'm really interested to kind of learn more about what's going to be going on with this ordinance and looking forward to it.
My name is David Sprick, Chief of University Police, and I'm here because my department is a community partner interested in issues that affect all of us in this tight-knit community.
I'm Katie Wilson. I work as a health educator at UW-Eau Claire, and I'm one of the co-chairs of the High-Risk Drinking Prevention Action Team, which is a Healthy Communities action team through the Healthy Communities Coalition. And I'm here to learn more and make Eau Claire a healthier place.
I'm Dale Peters. I'm with the City of Eau Claire, and I'm just really excited to hear the conversation and where this group feels they want to go with behaviors related to excessive alcohol.
My name is Pat Ivory. I work with the City Planning Department. We've been involved with the neighborhoods over the years with developing neighborhood plans, and most recently worked with the development of a neighborhood task force and some of the
issues that have been identified in the neighborhood came up with that task force, and we're here to see if we can help also.
Weirdly situated spot here. I'm Nick Ashman, here on behalf of Historic Randall Park Neighborhood Association, and I'm just here to represent the association.
I'm Courtney Draxler. I'm from the health department, and I'm here today to work together to figure out the next steps that's right for our community.
Good, thanks. So lots of reasons people came to the table and a lot of perspectives. Some organizations were not able to get a representative here, and we will be catching them up for the next meeting that we have, so do know that. But I'm really thrilled that we have so many different perspectives around the table. Really, the goal today is to hear your perspective. So if you're here thinking that I'm going to talk at you or someone else is going to talk at you the whole time, it's not going to happen. So be ready to dig in. We're going to be talking with each other, and really a couple of you mentioned getting your voices heard or having perspective shared. That's really what we're hoping to have happen, okay? So before we start, most often in groups like this, there are some quick ground rules, just so we remind each other that you should turn your cell phones off before the meeting starts. Those of you that heard my work cell phone ringing, my apologies. But also just to make sure that people are comfortable in engaging. Sometimes these topics are tough, and I would say alcohol is a tough topic. So I want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable with participating, because we need to hear from everyone, not just the loudest voices. And we need to be present during this hour and a half. So I wrote down a couple of things that I think most groups typically throw up there as ground rules. So what I'm looking for is any additions or any changes to these. So those of you that can't quite see this, it says active and respectful listening. I actually have a slide, so I'm going to switch it so you see. Oh, so we've already done two things on the agenda today. I already skipped one of my slides. So we're partway through the agenda. We're now going to talk about ground rules and principles. So these are a couple to start. Include everyone and minimize distractions. Are there other things people want on this list that would make it easier or more comfortable for you to be here today and in the meetings that we have coming up? Yeah?
I would just say on behalf of those who have white hair, speak loudly.
All right, speak loudly. So we have some people that have softer voices. I will also repeat what people say so that both community television, Valley media people are able to participate and hear, but also speak loudly so your colleagues can hear. Thank you. What else? What are we missing that would make it easier for you to participate? We have different comfort levels. Some people jump right in and yell out. Anything else that would make it more comfortable? If something strikes you, I want you to stop the meeting and yell it out. Yeah, Dale, were you going to add something?
I was going to say that you put up there active listening, but I think there should be active participation.
Okay.
Everybody was invited here so that we can hear what people have to say, and so it's important to be active and use this hour and a half and be an active participant.
Okay. So that means that you can't just sit. Is that fair? Is everybody comfortable with that as a ground rule? Yeah? All right. Any of these that make someone uncomfortable or not like, I can't be part of a group if that's one of the rules? All right. I mean, you got to own this, so these are your rules, not mine. Anything else that you want to add?
Is the group okay taking notes with technology, using phones for notes and laptops and stuff? I know we said put the phones away, but some people use those for notes.
Are people comfortable with phones being available to pull stuff up if you're talking in small groups or to take some notes? Is everybody okay with that? The ask is to keep listening while you're doing that. We are also recording, so if part of what you're trying to do is take notes so that you can remember, do know that you can go back, and we'll send the link out as well. So, but looks like I'm seeing nods, all right? So use of technology appropriately is okay. Yeah? Yeah.
From a legal standpoint, I'm assuming this is being considered an open meeting?
Yeah, so good point. Thank you for saying that. I should have started it. It is considered an open meeting, so this was sent out to the media. It is considered an open meeting. You guys are members of a official group of the city and are named that way, so do know that it's considered an open meeting, yes. And you know, you won't be bound to secrecy when you leave here to not share anything. All right, I will add that. So just a reminder that this is considered an open meeting. All right, I'm gonna put these up. If you have things that you're partway through, call me out, call colleagues out respectfully if it's not working, okay? Remind me if I'm not making sure the group is following the rules. Is that fair? All right, so those are gonna be up there for us. So now we are going to start talking about some content. So sorry about my running back and forth a little bit. We're spending most of today really trying to get a shared understanding of problem. So as you see here and as you see on your agendas, a big chunk of today is going to be about that. Some data will be shared, and I'm going to walk through some data, but then we're going to spend some time at your tables talking about what you think is the problem and how you would describe the problem. I think one of the things we want to leave here with is that every person sitting in this room has different professional backgrounds, different personal backgrounds, different stories, different data that you have available to you. And we want to glean that from everybody so we get a really full understanding of what we think excessive alcohol looks like, feels like, means in this community. I'm a data nerd, so data is important to me. Some of the data that you have at your table is because I think data should inform what we do. But data does also include perception, and it includes how people feel about this community. So us having a really clear understanding of that is going to be an important part of today's discussion. We're going to share what you guys come up with the large group. So I'm asking that every table has someone that is taking some kind of notes and is able and willing to share with the large group. So we will, after some time working at your tables, ask you to participate by sharing, and I'm going to be writing some of the ideas and thoughts down. At the end of that discussion, we really need to come to some conclusion about whether we have a problem, what that problem looks and feels like, if we can have a shared understanding of that, and a problem that we think needs some new tools to fix. Okay, so that's my goal for this chunk of time. Does that make sense to everybody? So I will say from the get-go that there's a ton of data on alcohol misuse. Lots of data. You're just going to get a snippet of it from me right now. We could have pulled all kinds of more data, but I frankly don't want us to drown in data. We could spend the next 20 hours pulling more and more and more data sources. I want you to have enough data to inform our conversation, okay? So I'm going to share a little bit of that with you. You have a couple of handouts that you got when you walked in. There are some materials on the table that you can look at as we talk in small groups, and we have a lot more if you would like. So don't worry about not having enough data. If you'd like more, we can always dig for some more. So very basic information. What's a drink? First of all of these PowerPoint materials will be sent to you, so you don't have to take the detailed notes, okay? I should have said that from the get-go, but we'll send that after the meeting. Just a reminder, because many people in our community do not understand that a drink is a drink is a drink is a drink and what that about means. This is just a reminder about what an alcoholic standard drink means. Interesting thing is that we do have, some very high-powered caffeinated alcoholic beverages that you can purchase in a single can, and one can, if you look at it, can be your full multiple drinks in it. So part of it is kind of knowing what is included in a drink. Not the most important piece of the conversation today, but just a reminder that there is a standard. This is a fairly busy slide, so I'm going to walk it through, but when Dale talked about, and as we've talked about, excessive alcohol use, there is a definition of that. So I'm going to walk through what the standard national definition is of excessive alcohol use. Unhealthy alcohol use also includes adolescent kids under the age of 21 drinking and pregnant women drinking, if you look at the bigger definition. But today we're really talking about excessive alcohol. So unsafe alcohol might be slightly different, just to say that out loud. This is the top picture shows how many drinks a day for a woman and how many drinks per week a woman has to drink to be having safe or moderate alcohol intake versus excessive intake. And the bottom half of the slide is men. So on the top, a woman, if she has 8 or more drinks a week or 4 or more drinks a day, is considered to be drinking excessively. For a male, 15 or more drinks a week or 5 or more drinks a day is considered excessive. Okay, so just again, frame your understanding of what we mean by excessive. There, again, we could argue about, what's the definition, and is this about blood alcohol level at point A? We can go down all of those little rabbit holes, but this is the generally accepted definition nationally for excessive drinking. And there's all kinds of consequences when you exceed this level of alcohol. Make sense? Yeah? All right. You have this picture at your table. We just recently did a big community health assessment in Eau Claire County as part of a larger project. Multiple health areas are looked at. It was not specific to alcohol, but alcohol was included in that large community health assessment. So in front of you, you have one page about alcohol misuse and some quick data points. So about 31% of driving deaths had alcohol involvement in Eau Claire County. That compares to 30% nationally. About 18% of students, and this is high school students, just to be really clear with you, reported consuming at least one drink in the past 30 days. 33% of Wisconsin students admitted to drinking alcohol, and these are, again, high school students. So one of the things I think, again, when we talk about excessive alcohol use, we can say, oh, we've got something positive going on with our high school students. But 27% of Eau Claire County adults say they had excessive drinking happening versus 18% nationally. Again, a couple of data points for you. The bottom, yeah.
Is that adults over the age of 18 or over the age of 21?
21. Yeah. The bottom part of the slide is a survey that was done, and over 1,300 people in Eau Claire County responded to the survey. And of those 1,300 people that responded to the survey, they talked about how serious the problem was, and that's over on the right-hand side. So 75% of people in Eau Claire County, of those 1,300 respondents, said alcohol was a serious problem. Okay? All kinds of reasons. It's an accepted attitude, it's easily available, there's no other activities, the laws aren't strict enough. A variety of reasons people shared for that concern they had about alcohol misuse. So recent data collected last fall saying, yep, we think there's a problem in this community. This slide shows you data that was collected at a state level to talk about the cost of alcohol misuse. And they have county-specific data. This is in a whole report that you can show our county compared to other counties, and you can look at the state-level rates as well. But the argument made by the data that was collected here is that for alcohol misuse in a community, it costs every single one of us. It's not just the person that's drinking heavily. It costs all of us. And those costs come primarily because of lost productivity and healthcare costs. But all of us pay the cost because of the taxes and the health insurance and other things. It's been calculated for every Eau Claire County resident, man, woman, and child in Eau Claire County, it costs $1,600 a year for us to have people that drink unsafely in this community. It's not about people drinking, a safe and healthy amount of alcohol, but unsafe alcohol use $1,600 a year. The state rate is considerably lower, and Wisconsin is already super high. So we have a higher dollar amount, I said rate, a higher dollar amount that it costs us in Eau Claire County than what it costs state people on average. And it does cost us. So that's one of the things to think about as you think about the problem. This is a new report that came out from the state actually in 2016 or 2017 that really looked at alcohol-related deaths. And again, I want to make sure that people understand the breadth of the problem related to alcohol misuse. So 2008 people died in Wisconsin from alcohol-related deaths. The majority of those are considered acute, so not someone that's considered a chronic alcoholic that dies of cirrhosis down the road. That's in this bucket. Cirrhosis and other chronic conditions are over here. The majority of deaths are related to poisoning, falls, accidents, car crashes, self-injury, and other kinds of things that happen. So again, when we think about what kind of problem do we have, the consequences are seen in lots of ways that result in deaths in Eau Claire County and across the state. I think I wrote down here, and on the other data piece that you have, there's a little bit of information about Eau Claire specific, but in 2015 there were 18 deaths that were alcohol related in Eau Claire County. And that's the most recent, and over 1,000 hospitalizations every year for alcohol-related hospitalizations for Eau Claire specifically. Gives you an idea of what is happening with alcohol. About 1/3 of all suicides are also alcohol-related. So again, when we think about consequences of alcohol misuse. This is a picture that many people across the nation use to talk a little bit about, and people in Wisconsin use, to talk a little bit about the difference in the US in alcohol, how alcohol looks and feels. So again, this is not about whether bars are good or bad, but just about how alcohol is different across the US and how we see it being provided. So anything that is red on this map, there are more bars than grocery stores, and anything that is yellow, more grocery stores than bars. So you get an idea that in Wisconsin, we do have a lot of alcohol availability. Again, not necessarily good or bad, but it just is a piece of the description of what is happening. This is UW-Eau Claire student survey data that was pulled together over the course of the last number of years, and I just show it to you as an example of some of our local data. On the left-hand side are underage students who consumed alcohol in the last 30 days. This is UW-Eau Claire students responding about, in the most recent year, which is 2015 that I have data for, about 64% of students said that they consumed alcohol in the last 30 days that were underage, and about 43% reported binge drinking. So again, that population definitely has shared that alcohol is a part of their experience on campus, or as students, not necessarily on campus. And then finally, just a little bit on data related to safety. Again, this is a very small snapshot of data. We do have safety people here, so hopefully they'll have additional information. But Eau Claire Police Department responds to more than 8 alcohol-related calls a day. In the past 6 months, 59 alcohol detox incidents has happened, and 544 citations for underage consumption. I talked to the court system in Eau Claire County this morning, and they gave me just some quick data from their system about court-related issues that are connected to alcohol. Again, there's a lot more that we could dig it for there, but these are a couple of examples. 708 county-level underage drinking citations. OWI and blood alcohol violations. So these are both related to motor vehicles, and someone in law enforcement or legal could probably tell me exactly the difference between OWI and blood alcohol. But 740 OWI arrests, which may include other substances, but blood alcohol violations specifically 490 in Eau Claire County. 9 operating firearm while intoxicated charges, which is interesting to me. It's a small number, but curious, yeah.
Is there any way data person that you have access to, can you get that broken down demographically and geographically, since this is such a city issue? That we know the facts are inclusive in this city or not in the city?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Is there any way to do that?
There, possibly, and I think we would, if we have questions that would help us understand the problem so that we can come up with better solutions, we certainly can dig into data. So I think that's, you know, keep thinking about those kind of things, and especially at your tables, talk about that as well. Part of this is just to say, you know, do we have some level of understanding of what's going on? Police department can map data. So these are just two examples of maps that the police department has come up with. And they're on your table if you'd like to look at it a little bit more closely. But this is alcohol violations mapped in the city of Eau Claire. The darker the color, the more red the color, the more violations there are. So you see, again, these are specific alcohol violations. Are circled in the Water Street area primarily, but they are all over the city. So just again, a reminder that it's not just a Water Street problem, not just a downtown problem. We have alcohol violations happening all over the city of Eau Claire. And this is documentation by the police department of any incident that they go out where alcohol is part of the what happens at that visit or at that stop. So if alcohol is noted for domestic violence, for any other kind of incident, but that's not the specific reason that they're there, that's noted. And you see, those are happening all over the city of Eau Claire. So I think one of the messages that is important for everybody to hear is that this is not a specific neighborhood problem. This is not a specific street problem. We know that alcohol impacts all parts of our community. And really, it's not that alcohol impacts all parts of our community. It's excessive alcohol use really impacts the community largely. I think some people go down the rabbit hole of saying, well, you're here to stop drinking. And that's definitely, just so I say that out loud to all of you, that's not the purpose of today in any way, shape, or form, okay? I don't want my 17-year-old to be drinking, but otherwise, we're okay. So questions about the data. That was a fairly quick fly through data. You have some additional data at your table. There's a 2-pager that is Eau Claire Healthy Communities that Katie referenced, is a county-wide group that really works on the core health problems that are identified in the community, one of which is high-risk alcohol use. So there's a 2-sided data sheet that has some additional data points on it that I didn't cover. Questions about what I did talk about. And we have references and all of those things if people want to dive in a little bit farther. So, take a pause. What we're going to do next is all of you have different perspectives and all of you have a different idea of the problem of excessive alcohol use in this community. Some of you may share at your tables that you don't think we have a problem, and you know, it's really, this is your opportunity to share with each other and hopefully come to some common understanding of, do we have a problem, what is it, and then are we going to work on it, okay? So the first task is I'm just going to give you a few minutes to reflect. Look at the materials you have, think about your own experiences, and you have a little half sheet of paper where you can jot some notes, and I'd encourage you to do that. How can you help us understand the problem of excessive alcohol use in Eau Claire? So you, and you know, if you're here because of Eau Claire Healthy Communities, or you're here because of Historic Randall Park Neighborhood Association, or you're here because you represent the Tavern League or a bar, help us understand the problem from your standpoint, okay? So we're gonna just have you think a little bit, and then I'll let you know when we'd like you to start talking as a group about that and sharing your perspective. Who loves Eau Claire? Yeah, we love Eau Claire, okay? Because we're gonna talk about all the, you know, reasons that we may or may not think alcohol is a problem, so just a reminder that we all love Eau Claire. So I'm gonna go around table to table and ask you to share with us what your conversation was about. So really, what did you think that you could share with us to help us understand the problem? Okay, so we're gonna go table to do that. Sound good? You guys ready? All right, I'm gonna start in the back table. Oh, no, you don't want me to start with you? Well, I started here last time, so I was just trying to do, I didn't want to pick on Mike again, so.
Okay, so I'm going to go through just a couple things. One of the things that was stated was that a smaller pool of people are creating a large number of issues, giving a large group a bad rap. So it's a smaller pool that we're talking about, but yet this could potentially affect a larger group.
Okay, so excessive drinking by a smaller pool is creating a bigger problem. Okay, what else?
The issue of aftermath of garbage, leftover cups after a party is creating issues for neighborhood people.
I'm shorthanding here, so my apologies. Okay? So aftermath of parties and garbage and other things that people visibly can see afterwards.
There seems to be, it's something that you can see. Like, for example, someone that becomes a problem at an establishment, they physically start bumping into you, get loud, that type.
That's my abbreviation for with increased use. So behavior change with increased use, okay?
There is a possibility out there that with some of the failure of upgrading rental property, that it becomes more of a location where people don't care about that residence and have more apt to have house parties there because they don't have to worry about what that property looks like. And then a lack of communication between some neighbors.
Help me understand what that means related to the excessive alcohol. So I'm not quite sure I got that. Lack of communication makes the problem worse, or?
What the problem was, or it was about the neighbors.
Yeah.
Necessarily had to do with excessive alcohol.
Yeah, that one was more of a, probably not excessive alcohol. You can scratch that one.
Okay, but having communication might be one of the solutions when we get to solutions. So we'll keep talking about that, okay? All right. Any other things that were identified by that table? I heard you guys talk about a few other things, no? That help us understand the problem? Anything else?
I didn't write down the last one, but there's, sometimes we see some of the effects of overconsumption or the safety of people and going to wrong residence, entering into a house that they think is theirs, and it becomes not only a safety issue for themselves, but also for neighbors that have people walking into their houses.
So people that are have had so much to consume that they don't even know what house they're returning to. I heard the comment made that the prevention concern, of course, is that if that person, if the police come and they get home or they get home safely, however, is great. But if someone, they think someone's breaking into their home, and if they decide that they have a breaking and entry, they certainly have a risk of having a really negative consequence by the homeowner. So, okay. Anything else that the group wants to add? Thank you for that sharing. Okay. Any additional items that you want me to record here?
Yeah, so kind of a couple of things that we talked about was how it, excessive alcohol, affects your interactions with other people. So kind of going off that, entering the wrong house too, that would kind of be a problem, obviously, entering another person. But also with your social interactions with, you kind of touched on that, your part that you said about, what was it? You put down, it was for the sexual.
Oh yeah, just there's a lot of different things that happen. People think about high-risk alcohol use as death or alcoholism. But all the other things that happen when you're intoxicated, like regretted sex without protection that leads to an STI that affects your health forever, or mental health issues that are exacerbated. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yes. And then also, it's kind of weird, but now it's kind of become the social norm to college students. They've thought that going to college is kind of an everyday life kind of thing, and when you go to college, that's what you do. And by doing something, by either getting them involved in other activities, could either take them out of that position where they're not just sitting in their dorms and not just there, because that's where either they have a lot of alcohol, especially the underagers. And from personal experience, I was a bouncer at a bar, and not a lot of students would come out to bars anymore lately, but they would, 6 years ago, they would. So either the crime for police officers has gone up and gotten better, and then that pushes the students going back to their dorms. Is there anything else?
And that was in
Menominee, yes, yeah. And Menominee, and, I mean, probably pretty similar, I'm guessing, problems here as a Eau Claire.
Am I hearing you say that the location of excessive alcohol use might be, maybe it's not at the bars, maybe it's at house parties, or maybe it's in the dorm rooms or wherever. So maybe change in location or various locations for excessive use. Okay. All right. Other things that you guys have that we're not as, I have someone other than me taking notes as well, but I'm just.
Or just quality of life issues with the litter or noise.
Okay.
My co-chair of the High Risk Drinking Prevention Action Team, mentioned that she used to live in the Randall Park neighborhood and she recently moved out. She loved the area, but it just got to be a little bit too much to deal with the consequences of high risk drinking.
So neighborhood kind of issue. Okay. Anything else from that group that wasn't shared that you want to make sure? Again, things shared, changes, high-risk alcohol can be seen in some change in social interactions, some regretted behaviors like sexual behaviors and other things, some expectation by the college age group that this is normal and is expected, and perhaps some issues around where excessive alcohol use takes place being not necessarily what first comes to mind. It's not necessarily in bars. It's not, again, I would argue from some of our data that we have that it's not necessarily just college age kids either. We have excessive alcohol use happening at every age spectrum. Increasing falls by elderly, for example, because of alcohol use. So it's a really tough thing for us to have to understand and admit. It's easy to point at the young kids, right? So yeah.
I thought it was important what he said, it's what we do, speaking of college students. And those of us that went to college, think back a few years, but it's fun. That was the whole thing. There's a bunch of activities that are just wrapped around this drinking, the Wapatulis, the homecomings, all these different things. And so unless you address that fun and either replace it with something else that's fun or show people these bad behaviors, I don't think we're going to move the needle very far.
Thanks. You guys ready to report?
Yeah. We talked about the quality of life issue too, in terms of that it really affects people living within those neighborhoods. And getting into the issue of what we've seen like in the Randall Park neighborhood was the continual decline in home ownership within those neighborhoods. And we feel it's important to have a proper mix or balance of home ownership and rental properties, but you need to, in order to encourage the neighborhoods to revitalize, you need to provide an environment where people want to move into. So we felt that was important. We felt that it's not just the college-age kids that are is the problem, that it's a wider problem on that. In some of the older neighborhoods, you're seeing younger adults that maybe not are going to college, but are moving into some of these rental properties, and they're as much as the problem as some of the college students. And then the other thing is that we felt that in terms of addressing the problem, it's not just one organization that needs to address it, but it needs to be a collaborative effort between multiple organizations. And unfortunately, probably needs to be an ongoing effort. It can't just be a one-time shot.
And I'm going to note that here. So solution, collaboration, and ongoing. We'll get back to that. Okay. Anything else about problem that you guys have?
How about you guys? Okay. Some of the same issues, but we also had heard, we have a transportation person here, and his point was, every action you take has a reaction, sort of. So if you take away the blue bus, what's going to happen because of that? We also have a tavern owner. He's stated that there's more problem with drugs than alcohol. Is that what you were saying? We sort of ran out of time, so I'm not sure I got everything.
Well, you guys can,
And alcohol is definitely an important topic, but there's also other things going on that I deal with every weekend at the door, or with security cameras, the PD, whatever it may be. You know, the marijuana, the meth, all that stuff. Let's make sure we're looking at this as a whole too, and not just have the crosshairs on one topic when there might be 2 or 3 other ones. You know, when it comes to unhealthy living, so on and so forth. So.
Okay. And then from a student perspective, kind of the same as what was said over there, except that also mentioned that there's really a pressure to drink because of this alcohol, what do we call it, culture that we've handed down to them. And so we either try to make an impact on it, or I think we should try to make an impact. That's my personal. But it was interesting for me for a student to say, it is the reality. They're going to drink. And there's pressure, and there's social obligation. That's not, well, anyway, that was just what was said. The difference between CVTC and UW is that their student population is a little older, the average age being 23. It's a commuter college. They're not seeing necessarily the same problems. And then most of the neighborhood issues have been impacted, but I would like to reiterate that I personally feel that it's heartbreaking to have to focus on such a small percentage of people creating a problem, and the problem impacts that neighborhood in such a negative way that nobody sees the other 5 days of the year, a week, that the students are wonderful neighbors. And so part of our efforts are just turn that image around somehow. I don't like to focus on the alcohol or the garbage or somehow that's a big issue for how the neighborhood's going to move ahead for revitalization. I mean, if we don't get that message out there also, people won't want to live here. And we do have to create the balance, and I think Pat said that very well.
I also want to point out, you know, I grew up on Graham Avenue next to the YMCA, and I grew up from this big to now in the area. But you made a great point. You've been there for 30 years, and you have seen it get better, right? That's what you said when we opened. Mm-hmm. So over the efforts that they've worked with the university and the students over the decades and years, it's gotten better. So there has been some good effort and some good attention brought to a bad topic.
But nobody...
And what a great point that
yes.
1% is running it for the rest of us. Or, you know, but doesn't mean we can't help and solve the 1%, but what a great point. Why is the 1% affecting 99% of us?
Because that's the way it's been ever since kindergarten.
Squeaky wheel.
One kid we had to stay.
Anything else from? I apologize. I love it. Is there any other perspective at the table about the problem that we want to capture that isn't up there? All right, you got. Oh, go ahead, Jen. Yep.
Safety shouldn't ever, I don't think, should ever become a card we take off the table. So if the problem's going to exist, and we know it's going to exist, let's not handcuff the people that need help to be safer. So if it's after class counseling, if it's places they can get help, whatever they need, if it's help getting home, whatever it is, if we need to expand taxi spots and Uber spots, if we need to expand the bus thing, if we need to, you know, just make sure, if we need to open the street to no cars, you know, and shut the street down so you can't drive, you know, just my last thing.
Okay, so safety
is critical in the conversation about the problem. Good, thank you for sharing that. That's a newer thing. I don't know that we specifically talked about that. All right, last group. Go ahead. You're good, Jenna. Yep.
We talked a lot about the cultural issue, and so it's expected.
Yep, so we.
It's not unusual to think
As a problem, yep.
We talked a little bit about the use of resources that it requires, that about 25% of EMS responses are alcohol related in the city. We talked about there being a decline in beer sales compared to the past, and how people are tending to drink more at home before they go out to the bars, and then when they do, it tends to be more of a hard liquor or even drug use. And then we kind of talked about drinking as a rite of passage, and how it can be habit forming, especially in the young adult years. And then also a little bit about the dangerous situations that alcohol consumption can lead to, such as not remembering where you are or not having any recollection of where you are or what's going on.
Some of these are kind of additional language from some of the things we already talked about. So not remembering, all of those things that, remembering. Okay. Other things that you guys have that weren't shared?
It's like Jed said, we're not coming and bringing to the table. Drugs is a very, very large thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear that. Mm-hmm.
Like I said, drugs adds to this problem.
Yep.
And that's when all your dots come up on the map.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more.
Yep. Okay. So this alcohol, not the only issue, is an important thing.
There's a lot bigger one.
Drugs as an input into inappropriate behavior is an important piece of the conversation, because we've started this by talking about excessive alcohol use, really grounded in, we're seeing things in our community that aren't what we want to see. But some of it, what I'm hearing is part of that, we need to also talk about what are the other things going in. And drug use is certainly a piece of it. Yeah. Yeah, Al.
I would just add to that, like Dave's kind of saying, I heard both you and Dale say it earlier, using the word behavior. And I think we need to keep that word as part of our conversation, because we're not really, we don't want negative impacts for any of the people involved, but we do want the negative behaviors to change.
Lots of conversation. So one of the goals with this conversation is that we have some level of shared understanding of a problem. So, my question for all of you is, after your table conversation and after hearing all of those different perspectives, really to take the next step forward in thinking about solutions, we have to say, yeah, there's something here that needs to be worked on. So this isn't a group that's going to vote. This is really about how can we together say, yep, I think there is something in all of this, that we have a cultural issue, that we have resources being expended, that we have an aftermath of unsafe alcohol use that could be hitting all parts of neighborhood, individuals, law enforcement, all kinds of folks. That we have consequences that we are seeing and behaviors that we are seeing that aren't what we would like to see in this community, some of which are related to alcohol use, some of which are likely not, or at least not solely related to alcohol use. All kinds of other things on the list of what we think the problem is. Do we have agreement that there's a problem that we want to work on? Is anybody concerned after this conversation that they're saying, yeah, we don't think that there's a reason to look at some potential solutions? Honest is what I need you guys to be. We don't have to all agree with what the solutions are. That's going to be our next discussion. Okay? All right, then we're gonna hold that, we're gonna document problem, and we're gonna have that for all of you via the documentation of this meeting, okay? But I'm hearing from all the tables reporting that, yeah, there's an issue with behavior. There's a culture in this community that does have something related to alcohol that's not quite right, and that we see individual and community consequences. Yes? Does that match what you feel like you talked about? That was my quick summary. All right. Before we end today, I want to have a quick conversation about stakeholders. We have, as you heard when you introduced yourselves, we have people from a lot of different perspectives here. I think the only sector that wasn't able to make it was healthcare. We had hoped to have a healthcare person here as well. Those are the sectors that were identified by City Council, and as Dale and I talked a little bit about additional people that might make sense to come. Are we missing people that care about this issue for whatever reason, and we need to make sure are at the table? Yeah, Helene.
I think regarding our neighborhood, I think we always are missing the landlords.
Okay. Is anybody in this room a landlord and that's willing to wear that hat?
Pioneer has departments above it, but not like the whole concerns of the JCAP.
Okay, so maybe we'll think about that. Okay, yep. Okay, so stakeholders. Who else? Human Services. And tell me a little bit about that. So their feel of the problem.
Substance abuse issues in the area are increasing. It's also leading to an enormous increase of out-of-home placements for children and broken families.
Okay. So the comment, if you guys didn't all hear, Human Services is seeing some of the consequences because of out-of-home placement. Much of it related to not necessarily just alcohol, but certainly alcohol is often involved, but also other drug use. So, okay. Anybody, any other sectors? Yeah.
There's somebody with city planning, right? I forgot who's all.
Yeah. Pat Ivory's here. City Planning's here.
The shift from Phoenix Park to across the river, different tenants are coming across.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There are different neighborhood associations in the city besides just the ones represented here, so that's a lot.
And how do we connect with them? So, you know, the goal, part of having Pat here is that he's got a little touch on all neighborhood associations, but also understanding that the neighborhood associations that are here to think about neighborhoods fully. And I think both of you guys were involved in the Neighborhood Revitalization Task Force as well. So think about that group. But again, probably can't have every neighborhood here, but think about the fact that, as you see in maps, this covers all of Eau Claire. So we'll think about the reach to all parts of Eau Claire. Yeah. And we have some residents of the East Hill in the room, I know, so they can also think about the multiple hats that they wear. All right. You can think a little bit more about that because, you know, we want this to be inclusive, but I really don't want us to not have a full perspective. So that's part of what we're doing today, is making sure that we understand each other's perspective that's here, but also, are we missing some people? All right. Keep thinking about that. So, what's that, Dale?
We just keep spinning.
Spinning, I'm sorry. I know the...
Computers have wheels.
Yeah, I'm bad. I moved too much. So
we're trying to be active listeners.
Active listeners, I like that. I don't think we've broken rules so far. So
That's right.
yeah. So where are we going? I think might be a logical question as you sat down today. You got invited and came in less than a week's time to a meeting. The ask of all of you is to stay engaged for a little bit. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that means, so when you leave here today, you understand what we're hoping your commitment is. Capturing the problem was today's job. Talking about solution is the next step. And that really, we could talk about problems forever and, you know, still be here in 10 years, and that's not the goal. The solution that was proposed to City Council that kind of started some of this conversation is one of the potential solutions that we will be looking at. But our next discussion is really going to be about how can we really as a group think about what are the best practices out there, what are the things that we think, because we know our community, might work. Some of which, well, I'd like to say that Dale has a magic wand as a city manager, but I know he doesn't. I'm quite certain he doesn't. This is not about a person or a single organization. It's not about the city solving an excessive alcohol misuse problem in Eau Claire. It's all, we all own that, those of us that live, work, play in this community. But I think together we can come up with some possible solutions and then really think about which of those are owned by the city, which of those are owned by other organizations that are sitting around the table here? What are we individually thinking that we can do to make a difference? And what can we do to influence others to make a difference in this community? So we're going to be talking about that at the next meeting. But very much our ask is to be committed to helping us come up with some solutions. A couple of you have heard me talk about, what are the right tools in the toolbox? We have some tools in the toolbox right now to deal with excessive alcohol, but we probably don't have all the right ones if we've got the data that we have, that we see every single day. Might also be described as a puzzle piece. It's messy. I mean, if there was an easy solution, if there was a magic wand to this, we would have solved it a long time ago, right? We have all slightly different perspectives on the problem, but the solution is going to be putting all those pieces together. Some solutions are individual. I hear lots of times people saying, well, it's just an individual choice to drink too much alcohol. I will push back if the solution that you guys come up with at our next meeting is everybody needs to make the personal choice not to drink that much, okay? Just so you know that, I'll be honest with you. Yep, we all make personal choices about drinking too much or not drinking too much, but our community can set some things that help create an environment where it's easier to make the safer choice, okay? So that's gonna be my pushback to all of you if you come to the table and the only solution you have is that Liska, don't drink more than 3 drinks in one night. You need to decide not to do that. I'll push back and say we got to come up with some other solutions, right? And again, some things we might come up as solutions that we will give back to the city to start working on. Some will be solutions that we have others in this room take on and move forward. What you should expect next is that in 2 weeks from today, there will be another meeting. On Monday at the same time. A week after that, so the 23rd of April, Monday, 3 to 4:30 will be the next meeting. You will get this all electronically. And then Monday, April 30th, a week after that, will be the 3rd meeting. The 3rd meeting will be in this room. The 2nd meeting, we don't have this room, so the location is yet to be determined. But we'll let you know that. The reason we're trying to have 3 meetings.
What was the 2nd meeting?
2nd meeting is Monday the 23rd, so 2 weeks from today. 3rd meeting is Monday the 30th, 3 weeks from today. You will get all of that electronically. If you came to this meeting and we don't yet have your email, make sure you leave it for us if you're willing to be communicated with that way. It'll be easiest if we just have a group to send things to. We'll get the PowerPoint to you, we'll get the meeting dates and locations to you, we'll get any additional items that you would like, just email me about that. The reason we're trying to have those meetings quickly is that we don't want to drag this on forever. We'd like to engage the students that may not be here over the summer. And if we think a solution can include some version of an ordinance, we'd like to get it to council before the student population leaves. So that is one of the items on the table for the next discussion. Not the only one, but just for full understanding that that's part of why we're trying to have some meetings fairly quickly before the beginning of May. Okay? It's not going to be the only thing we talk about next time. Between now and the next meeting, we do expect you to do some check-in with those that you represent. I understand that there's not enough time in these couple of weeks to have a full meeting of your neighborhood association or to meet with everybody that's in the Tavern League or to do to meet with all the staff at the fire department. I get that. But at least feel comfortable that you're coming back to the table reflecting the perspective of who you're here representing. Okay? Is that fair? And I understand that that's hard. At the next meeting, we'll talk about solutions, and all of you should be thinking a little bit about what those potential solutions might look like for the excessive alcohol use and the problem that's been described. So start thinking about that. I want you to take first of all, any questions about next steps? Yeah.
Lisa, do you by any chance have samples or references for us to look up best practices that exist in comparable cities?
We do have some, so we can get that out to people if people would like to look at that. There's some literature, state level and national level, about what some best practices there are, or that have been considered related to excessive alcohol use. So we will get that out. Yeah?
Is there any chance we get a list of the existing ordinances
Mm.
that do exist? I mean, are we just changing verbiage here from a law from 1950, or are we making a whole new law? Or
Yeah.
whatever it may be?
So the public good order ordinance that was proposed to have some changes in it, that is here. If people would like to take that and they'd like a copy, we can also get it out electronically. I'm hesitating because there's all kinds of state and local ordinance and law that alcohol is included in, and it's rather difficult to pull them together, but we'll work on getting at least a summary of what exists. I mean, everything from drunk driving, there's all kinds of different things, but we'll work to put something together. I'm looking at Janessa, and we've started some of those conversations, so we'll look to see what we can compile. What was proposed to council was an adjustment of an existing ordinance, but that doesn't mean that is at all what this group would recommend moving forward, or it might be that we see some positives there and we want to tweak it. So that ordinance is here. Some of the best practices that Helene talked about are other types of ordinances that could happen, so we'll get all of that to you. Yeah, it's good. Any other questions about next step? So half a minute, write down one word or phrase as a reaction to today, and I'm going to ask a couple of you to share. I won't call you out, I'll voluntarily ask you to share, but write down one word or reaction, and please know that you're leaving that for us. You don't need to write your name next to it. There's a sticky note. If you want to write it on the sticky note and just leave the sticky note at the table, that would be wonderful. It's our little very quick evaluation. We're not asking you to fill out a whole form. One word, one phrase, how you feel after working through the agenda today. All right, and my clock says I've violated our time already. It's 4:31. So, everybody have a chance to write one word or phrase? A couple of you are writing. So my ask is for someone at that table to share. Anybody willing to share? Al?
I feel optimistic.
Optimistic.
Based on everything that I've heard here today and all the different representations we have here in the room, I feel very optimistic.
Great. Anybody from this table willing to share?
Mine was promising.
Promising. All right. What about you guys? Anybody willing to share something?
Hopeful.
Hopeful. All right. Anybody from this table willing to share?
Sure. Is there consensus that our community has a problem, and is it just excessive alcohol, or are we going to break this out into a list of specific problems or challenges? And the other was good start.
Good start. Okay. And how can we be more specific so that we get good solutions, maybe? How about you guys? Overdue, relieved that it's happening. All right. Thank you, everybody, for taking time. My apologies that we're a couple of minutes over. If you want to talk more about the other issues that are happening in Eau Claire related to meth, there's a community forum at the library at 6 o'clock on meth. So you can all follow me over there for 6 o'clock. Thank you very much for coming. I hope to see all of you in 2 weeks. And please touch base if you've got questions or concerns with me. I'll make sure you have my email and contact information. Thank you, guys.
Newsworks is made possible by continuing community support. If you would like to volunteer or make a donation, please contact us via phone at 715-839-5067 or online at valleymediaworks.org.